Hi, super awkward. My name's Scott. I've been a professional web developer since 2018. Prior to that, I was like an analyst developer for large financial organizations, and like Barclays, Fidelity, and Deloitte. I'm married. I have a wife and a daughter. I'm also a cat dad. There's Leo, Boris, and Darcy. So before we get started, a couple more shameless plugs. Sorry. I'm one half of a podcast called Whiskey Wednesday. You can catch us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And we also have a YouTube channel. So you can catch us when we go live then. I think we're starting up in just before Christmas. I work for a place called KARMARAMA. It's part of Accenture Interactive, and it's an ad agency. They do adverts here in the UK for like the army, like a grocery store called Lidl, and guide dogs for the blind. I work in a section called Creative Products, where we work on the sort of digital products for the clients here. And some of those clients include grocery stores like Tesco's and Sainsbury's, telecoms provider, which is BT, British Telecom, and energy providers like EDF and SSE. There are other clients which I can't talk about, but I can say that we do have large scale JAMstack projects with them in production. Okay, so icebreakers out the way, let's go onwards. So warning, I mean, this is like every talk, excessive use of gifs, memes and emojis. So sorry, not sorry. I need to make the talk interesting in some way. And I usually like to do a poll, but because of COVID and we're all sat in our homes, we can't do that anymore. So sorry about that. So that's like the first 5 minutes of my talk done. The poll usually takes a while, but JAMstack. First up, it's not JAMstack anymore. It's now JAMstack with a lowercase JAM. So this was decided recently by a guy called Phil Hawksworth, who is like head of developer relations at Netlify. They didn't want to put any more emphasis on any one of the J, the A, or the M. This was coined back in 2016, so it's been around for a while, but more reason on the name changed in a bit. But the big reveal, apart from the new logo, is what is a JAMstack. I'll come on to this, but first, what's the jam in JAMstack? So JavaScript, APIs, and markup. It's the holy trinity of the web development. But the JAMstack is not about specific technologies like LAMP, mean, MERN, whatever. It's more of a paradigm shift on how to deploy. So like a way of building websites and apps that help deliver better performance, more secured projects, and a lower cost of scaling. And most importantly, for me, a better developer experience. I say most importantly, I memean, it does result in a better user experience all around, which I'll come on to in a bit. So the jam, like I've already said, the JavaScript side takes care of anything dynamic on the client, on the browser. But it doesn't have to be JavaScript which you sort of write your project in. As long as it compiles down to JavaScript, then that's fine, because that's what the browser uses. There are other frameworks which you can write in Go. Let's say there's a static site generator called something Hugo, and you can you can write everything in Go, and it'll just compile down to JavaScript at the end of the day. So there's the A, which is the APIs. So anything like server-side process or a database action, these are abstracted out into reusable APIs, which are accessed over HTTPS with JavaScript via your front end. And these can be custom built or leverage third-party services. And the markup HTML. So the M is for markup and not markdown, although markdown does render down to HTML, so you can use markup in say an application which would use that and pre-build your pages for you. So when I say pre-build, it's sort of templated markup. So you build your site and then you put it onto a CDN somewhere. So these three parts here, these are the fundamentals of the web architecture: JavaScript APIs and markup. So there's nothing, no revelation here. These are technologies which have been around for a long time, and this sort of approach is also called a static site, which is what they are. But there's a bit of like stigmatism around that. So when you think about static sites, you sort of think, what comes to mind? Stuff like Neopets, MySpace, early 90s sites, stuff like this. This is a reimagination of a 90s site for Captain Marvel, and sign our guest book, and stuff like that. It was good, the golden age of the web. So that's sort of JAMstack, but the definition isn't great, which was why it was coined as JAMstack rather than static sites. So what is static? It's something which is it's a bit of a loaded term, isn't it? So lacking in movement, action, or change. So it doesn't give you don't get very excited if you say I'm going to make you a static site, but when you say I'm going to make you a JAMstack site, people go, "Oh, okay, what is that?" It's still a static site. So a question I often get asked as well is my project a JAMstack project? So it's a JAMstack project if you pre-render your pages and have it on a CDN or a file server somewhere. So if it matches that, if it's pre-rendered on a CDN somewhere, then yes, it's a JAMstack project. What is not a JAMstack project? So stuff which is monolithic server run web applications, like single page applications as well, which use which generates like views from the database and then present them to the user, after doing a round trip to a database to get like a page view somewhere. So things like WordPress, Drupal, and Squarespace, these are deemed as sort of a monolithic projects and structures, because when you get information from these, they have to go via the browser to a database somewhere, get a page view, and then bring it back to the browser to the user. Okay, back to the JAMstack though. So the JAMstack is it's not an experience, it's not a specific tech stack, it's the architecture, and how you build your site, pre-rendering stuff. But why is that important? So slight tangent now, so just bear with me of why I try to illustrate why this is important, and just take a sip here. Okay, so performance. So performance matters. This is why there's so many different ways to measure performance: TT, time to first byte, time to interactive, All the other ones I can't think of right now, but there are many ways to measure performance on in a browser, and that's because it's important. Speed is important for especially mobile users. People want things fast. So performance has been a factor in Google's ranking algorithm for 10 years now, since 2010. And people are using mobile devices a lot more now than any other times. So that's why there's two indexes. There's a mobile and a desktop. But, excuse me. Performance, it will affect how users interact with your site, and it will impact your rankings, your SERP rankings, search engine. I can't think of the R. So it will affect your search engine ratings, rankings. So this affects click-through rates, time spent on page, and return rates for returning users. And this ultimately is it goes into conversions, bounce rates and conversions, conversions to where it really matters. That's why I've put on extra emoji here to emphasize the importance. So people want things fast. How fast is fast enough? 2 seconds is fast enough. Anything slower than 2 seconds, you start to lose nearly a third of your users. So this slide is from I think with Google Post. This is from 2018. So this number may have decreased, but this is just under a third of potential visitors you could lose in the first second. So performance matters, and there's some studies which show that as well. So the BBC found that they lost an additional 10% of users for every additional second their site took to load. So it's 10% loss of users for every additional second to load the site. That's no small amount. And Pinterest reduced perceived wait times by 40%, and this increased search engine traffic and signups by 15%. So in a JAMstack situation where you would reduce the perceived load time. So just by the way, both the BBC and Pinterest, these aren't JAMstack, but this is just a way to emphasize how performance matters. So back to the sort of perceived wait time, how you would do this, you would have a static asset somewhere, like a skeleton layer of your page with a spinner on it, and then this would reduce, it would be a perceived reduction in speed. So you think something is happening when you're just looking at a spinner, but the rest of the site is sort of loaded in. That's how you sort of have your sort of speed perception, and it's a thing with JAMstack as well. So if you have a JAMstack project which needs to get information at runtime, so if your JAMstack site is all pre-built, but there is maybe some user-generated information you need to get, then you would have your JAMstack site, like the skeleton of the page already loaded in, straight from the CDN, and then there would be a small delay while you wait for one of the APIs to bring back some of the user-generated data. So that's just a sort of quick overview of perceived wait times. So in a JAMstack situation, like I said, this is achieved by pre-rendering some of the page. So yeah, this is a 15% increase from reducing your perceived wait times. Okay, back to static. So benefits of the JAMstack. So performance, which is why we had that slight tangent. This is no work to be done at request time. So with static, we get performance out of the box. So we have our site built all of the pages pre-rendered, put on a CDN somewhere, and then this will just go from the browser request to the user's eyeballs quite quickly. So there's no work to be done at request time, as it's all waiting for you on a file server or a CDN. Security, it's you get added security. There's a much smaller stack to manage, secure and protect. So I'll come on to that. Like a traditional dynamic web project works something like this. This is a simplified example, and obviously I'm going to tilt it in the favor of JAMstack, but this is a sort of how a typical dynamic web app would work. So you'd have requests from the browser. There may be some pre-cached resources on a CDN, and then this could go through a load balancer to an origin server that might be sitting behind a load balancer to get do your web server stuff, get your page view. There could be logic on there to do your routing, and then maybe more, add some more information to the CDN for subsequent visits again. So from the database server, and then that's a round trip back to the browser again into the user's eyeballs. So there's quite a lot here to secure and protect, especially with the web server, database server, and that side of things. With the JAMstack, like I said, this is simplified, but this is sort of a bare bones JAMstack site, for your browser, which would go off to the CDN, and then the site would be delivered back to the user. Any dynamic content, like user-generated content, can be retrieved at runtime if needed, and this can be enriched further by the A in JAMstack with any APIs. So the Gatsby team, who are Gatsby is like a static site generator. They like to be called a progressive web app generator, but they're in the same family as the other tools I'm going to come on to, but they refer to this as the content mesh. So this is you can have like auth, whatever sort of API services can you have. Your CMS, your whole CMS. You could pre-build your all of your pages from a CMS at build time and push them out that way. So any sort of plus, any user-generated content can be retrieved at runtime. So this is, like I said, this is empowering for front-end developers. Much smaller stack, fewer things for the developer to manage, and now front-end developers are sort of full-stack developers as well, because we can deal with the whole stack with services like Netlify and Vercel, where we can do the whole thing end to end with those sort of services. So the JAMstack, although there's no new fancy technologies, there are new technologies on the horizon, and we have modern sort of evergreen browsers to thank for that as well. We can leverage these the capabilities the browsers have as well with new frameworks or meta frameworks. There's one called Toast, which is an ES modules first framework, which means no bundling, no webpack. So that would sort of greatly reduce your bundle size, which is it's quite an exciting thing. So you could have say like a very big interactive like D3 graph on one page, and it wouldn't affect the bundle size for the rest of the site, because with ES modules you just get what's needed at that time loaded for that page. So things are looking good on that side of things as well. But this is that's going to be over the next sort of 18 months. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more interesting stuff in that space happening. So yeah, the Toast uses, like I said, the ES modules. So it's like a static dynamic import syntax directly. So you import like the let's say D3 directly into the browser and run it from there. It uses Rust, so it's not JavaScript per se. You can write JavaScript with it, and it compiles the JavaScript with Rust, so it's super duper fast. And there's also other tools like Snowpack, which is along the same lines as how Toast works. Okay, so like I said, with the JAMstack, we are enhanced with a rich ecosystem of services like Vercel, Netlify. Vercel and Netlify are both great hosting and service providers. These are where you can create your own APIs as well, or leverage third-party ones. Netlify have great forms. You can use forms with Netlify as well. It's great. And CMSs, Graph CMS and Strapi, both really good CMSs. There's others like Contentful. There's a lot of CMSs in the JAMstack space. I just picked out these two. And payment as well. Snipcart are a good player in the JAMstack space. And Stripe, Thor has done many a good tutorial on how to use Stripe with a Gatsby site. So this is really impactful for the processes in an organization. With a simplified stack means less time spent provisioning resources, and like I said before, like a smaller stack to manage. So static site generators, these you can see Next.js on there. I'm very sort of JavaScript biased. I'm sure there's other great ones out there. But like I said, you can build a JAMstack site with vanilla JavaScript, Gatsby.js, Next.js. Next.js, since version 9, I think it was, uses get static props and get static paths. So you can generate your static side of things. So Next.js is like the best of both worlds. You can have both dynamic and static at the same time with those two APIs, get static props and get static paths. Pretty good. So those are great. Static site generators aren't new. My first blog was built in Jekyll. Jekyll's been about since 2013, and that uses Ruby and I think nunchucks, handlebars, maybe some templating language like that. So this is what I'm saying. This is not anything new or sort of groundbreaking, but the sort of the API services and tools like Netlify and Vercel are making things enabling sort of us to move a lot faster now. So Gatsby is my jam stack. I like to use Gatsby a lot. Like I said, with our production applications, we've got at least 3 Gatsby sites in production, and we've got quite a large scale CMS one as well, but I can't talk any more about that. So, yep, Gatsby, I do like a bit of Gatsby. So JAMstack is, like I said, growing in popularity. There's quite a lot of JAMstack sites around, some which aren't just like informational document sites, even though I've got the React.js in here, the Gatsby store where you can buy your Gatsby socks. That's obviously in a JAMstack site. And that's it. How are we doing for time? So 5 minutes early, but
yeah, we've got a couple. Yeah, we have a couple of questions in the Discord, but I think you've got time to wrap up. And
cool. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just some good resources here. Remotely Interesting podcast. It's the developer advocate team at Netlify, and that's where you go for all your the new hotness in JAMstack, because those guys there Obviously, they're at the coalface of what, you know, where it's all at. So definitely a good one to listen to. staticgen.com is just your list of static site generators. JAMstack WTF is a good overview of the JAMstack. And then these ones here, this is where I got the stats for the BBC and Pinterest from. And there's a very last one for saying adieu to AMP. AMP is like the pre-compiled Google pages you get when it's like a simplified view of your site. And basically it's saying, don't dismiss AMP. AMP is still going to be great for your search engine results, even if you don't think you need it. It's something which you should sort of put the effort into doing. And it's something which I'm looking at doing personally as well, but that's a good read. And is that it? That's it.